Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. And today our first question that we're going to answer is from Curtis Edwards. And Curtis has a 71 220 sedan. And he mentioned to us that his car runs really rough for about the first 5 minutes and then it sort of comes out of its rough running spell. This is an interesting problem that a lot of the cars with Strongburg 175 CDT carburetors develop. And first of all, it sounds like it might be a choke issue. Well, two things could be going on here. First of all, Curtis, I would advise you to make sure that you have cooling water circulation through your choke housing, and that you also have a good thermostat in the car so that the engine is warming up at the correct rate. What you don't want to have is an engine that's running too cold too long, or an engine that's getting hot too fast. So I would advise putting an 80-degree thermostat from a 1977 or 78 240D in there to, sort of get the temperature in a happy spot. The next thing that you could see is that the choke housing is going to have 3 7mm screws on it. You can undo these screws and adjust the choke so that it's in the richer or leaner direction. The richer direction is going to be counterclockwise, and the leaner direction is going to be clockwise. And you're going to see an arrow that sits on top of the choke housing where you can adjust it. You'll also see a factory mark that was stamped into the choke housing and in the body of the carburetor. I would advise loosening the 3 7mm screws, aligning the two factory marks, and then seeing how the car runs. The last thing I would check for, of course, is possibly some damage inside the choke housing, such as a bad thermal spring. There is a thermal spring that reacts to the cooling water temperature that moves the choke into a position where the engine can get more fuel and a little bit more air. Well, it'll actually give the engine more fuel, but it'll lean out the amount of air so that the engine has a stronger vacuum and will draw in the fuel mixture through the choke jet. So take the 3 7mm screws off. Make sure that the thermal spring is reacting to heat. You can use a hair dryer to test it. And also make sure that the little valve that it turns inside the choke housing is completely free. Now, the next thing that I was going to talk about with all Mercedes that have an electric choke, which is basically what the 220 uses, the later 230, and most of the 250 models, as well as the carbureted 280, you need to make sure that you're actually getting power to the electric choke, and that the thermal spring is reacting to the power. So I'm pretty sure that your 71 220 has that ability as well. The last thing I was going to tell you is at the bottom of the Strongburg 175 CDT, there is a mixture adjusting screw. It is held in place with a 10mm lock nut, and the screw itself has an 8mm head. Undo the lock nut and gently turn the screw down in quarter-turn increments until you feel that the performance of the car is improved. After that, lock the 10mm lock nut, and I would also suggest adjusting this with the engine warm. The reason that I suggest this is because then you can actually look at the effect that the carburetor is having on the spark plugs. It sounded like your plugs might be a little bit lean in your question, and so I'm hoping that these corrections will make your car run its best. Anyway, thank you so much for your questions, and please be patient as we get back to you. Sometimes it takes me a while, but I'm doing my best. And please consider supporting us on Patreon and sharing our videos. Take care.